It was a day like any other. The sun was bright over Delhi. People were going about their lives. Then, the news broke. Air India Flight AI171 had vanished. It disappeared from radar just minutes after takeoff. The silence that followed was heavy. It was a silence filled with confusion and a growing sense of dread. A modern airliner does not simply fall from the sky, not on a clear day, not without a word. The initial reports were fragmented, a puzzle with missing pieces. A flash in the sky, a distant sound. Then confirmation. The plane had crashed. The nation held its breath, waiting for answers that would be slow to come. The flight was a routine one. AI171 was scheduled to fly from Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport to Mumbai. It was a busy domestic route, a sky highway connecting two of India's largest cities. The aircraft was a new generation Boeing 787 Dreamliner, one of the most advanced passenger planes in the world. It took off on time, climbing steadily into the clear morning sky. The weather was perfect. There were no storms, no unusual winds. Everything pointed to a normal, uneventful journey. For the first 12 minutes of the flight, everything was exactly as it should be. The pilots communicated with air traffic control. The plane followed its assigned path. Then, at 10:14 a.m., it happened. The icon representing AI171 blinked and then disappeared from the air traffic controller's screens. There was no mayday call, no distress signal, no warning of any kind. One moment, the plane was there, a symbol of modern travel and connection. The next, it was gone. The controllers tried to re-establish contact. Their calls went unanswered, echoing into an empty void. The suddenness of the event was baffling. An aircraft of that sophistication is equipped with multiple redundant systems. For all of them to fail at once, without a single message, was almost unthinkable. The search began immediately, but it did not last long. The wreckage was found not in a remote field, but on the outskirts of Gurugram, a bustling satellite city of Delhi. The impact had occurred in a developing residential area, tragically close to homes and businesses. The scene was one of contained devastation, a stark and terrible scar on the urban landscape. The speed of the descent was shocking. For a plane to fall from its cruising altitude so quickly suggested a catastrophic event, something that had overwhelmed the aircraft and its crew in an instant. The mystery of Flight AI171 had just begun. On board Flight AI171 were 245 souls. They were business travelers heading for meetings in Mumbai. They were families going on holiday. They were students returning to university. They were people from all walks of life, each with their own story, their own dreams, and their own loved ones waiting for them. The passenger list was a snapshot of modern India, a diverse collection of individuals united for a few hours in a shared journey. When the plane was lost, these individual stories were tragically cut short, leaving behind a void of grief and disbelief for those they left behind. At the airports in Delhi and Mumbai, a different kind of tragedy unfolded. Families gathered, their faces etched with anxiety and fear. They clung to their phones, desperate for any news, any small piece of information that might offer a glimmer of hope. But as the hours passed, hope turned to anguish. The initial confusion gave way to the heartbreaking certainty of loss. The scenes were filled with raw emotion. Tears flowed freely. People comforted each other, strangers bound together by a shared nightmare. The collective grief was a heavy weight. A national tragedy felt in every home that had a connection to the flight. The crash sent ripples of sorrow across the entire country. India declared a day of national mourning. Flags were flown at half-mast. Vigils were held in cities from north to south, where people lit candles and prayed for the victims and their families. The tragedy was not just a news story, it was a personal wound felt by millions. It reminded everyone of the fragility of life and the suddenness with which everything can change. The nation came together in its grief, offering support and solidarity to those who were suffering the most direct and painful loss. For the families, the pain was amplified by the lack of answers. They were left to grapple not only with their loss but also with a storm of unanswered questions. Why did the plane crash? What happened in those final silent moments? The absence of a clear explanation made it difficult to find closure. Every theory, every news report, every piece of speculation was a fresh source of pain. Their quest for truth became a heavy burden, a need to understand the final chapter of their loved ones' lives, a chapter that had ended so abruptly and mysteriously. The investigation into the crash of AI171 began amidst the wreckage. Teams of experts from India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation and international bodies converged on the site. Their first priority was to locate the flight recorders, the so-called black boxes. These devices, the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, held the key to understanding the aircraft's final moments. They were found relatively quickly, but they were not intact. Both recorders were significantly damaged, a testament to the violence of the impact. The data they contained was corrupted, making the task of reconstruction incredibly difficult. With the black boxes offering few immediate clues, investigators turned to three main theories. The first was catastrophic mechanical failure. Could a critical part of the aircraft have failed without warning? Investigators looked at the maintenance records of the Boeing 787. They examined other aircraft of the same type. They considered the possibility of a structural failure in the fuselage or a sudden, uncontained engine failure. However, the 787 has an excellent safety record. A failure so complete and so sudden that it prevented even a single distress call seemed unlikely, but it could not be ruled out. The second major theory was pilot error. This is a common factor in many air accidents. Investigators carefully reviewed the training records and personal histories of the captain and the first officer. Both were experienced pilots with impeccable records. There was no evidence to suggest they were fatigued or under any personal stress. Could they have made a critical mistake in handling the aircraft's complex systems? Perhaps they misread an instrument or reacted incorrectly to an unforeseen situation. But again, the silence was the problem. Experienced pilots are trained to communicate, especially in an emergency. Their silence was a deep and troubling mystery. The third and most disturbing possibility was sabotage. This theory explored whether the crash was a deliberate act. Investigators had to consider if an explosive device was smuggled on board. They also looked into the growing threat of cyber sabotage. Could a hacker have gained control of the plane's flight systems remotely? Another angle was an insider threat. The possibility that someone with access to the aircraft, either on the ground or in the air, intentionally caused the crash. While there was no immediate evidence to support this, the clean nature of the event, no warning, no communication, kept it on the table as a plausible, if terrifying, explanation. Months have passed since the day Flight AI171 fell from the sky. The date, June 12, 2025, is now etched into the nation's memory as a day of profound loss. The initial shock has faded, but it has been replaced by a lingering sense of sorrow and uncertainty. The crash site has been cleared, but the scar on the land remains, a physical reminder of the tragedy. For the families of the victims, the wound is still fresh. They live in a state of suspended grief, caught between mourning their loss and desperately hoping for answers that may never come. Their lives are forever divided into a before and an after. The investigation continues, but it has hit a wall. The damaged black boxes have yielded only fragmented data. The wreckage itself tells a confusing story. Experts have pieced together what they can, but the central question remains unanswered. Why? Without a clear cause, the crash of AI171 has become one of modern aviation's great mysteries. Speculation continues in the media and online, but for the official investigators, only facts matter. And the facts are in short supply. The lack of a definitive conclusion is frustrating for the public and agonizing for the families. The legacy of Flight AI171 is one of questions. It serves as a stark reminder that even in an age of incredible technological advancement, we are not immune to tragedy. It highlights vulnerabilities we may not have fully understood, from the integrity of complex flight systems to the security protocols designed to protect them. The aviation industry will study this case for years, looking for lessons that can be learned to prevent such a disaster from happening again. Every unexplained accident provides a painful opportunity to improve safety for future generations of travelers, ensuring that the loss of life was not entirely in vain. Ultimately, The story of Flight AI171 is a human one. It is about the 245 lives that were lost and the thousands of lives that were shattered by their absence. Finding the truth is not just a technical exercise, it is a moral imperative. It is about providing closure to grieving families. It is about holding someone or something accountable. It is about honoring the memory of those who boarded a routine flight on a clear morning and never reached their destination. Until the silence from that cockpit is finally understood, the mystery of Flight AI171 will continue to haunt the skies.